Hello, hello, hello people, Verax here with a prelude to my next LP, Blood Bowl Legendary Edition, which is going to replace Dungeon Keeper 2 on Saturdays. Before we get into what this video is about, I just want to make a little announcement because I've heard some little rumblings on my Facebook page that I ought to do an RPG again. Like I'm not really doing a story-based RPG currently. And some depth is kind of required on my channel. I hear you, and you're right, and there will be. But on a weekday, the next time a weekday LP finishes, I'll start a story-driven RPG. So just so you guys know. But for now, this is Blood Bowl Legendary Edition, which will be starting after Dungeon Keeper 2. And this is a prelude video. And basically, this video is for you to vote for which team you want me to play as. Now, for those of you who don't know, Blood Bowl is a game set in the Warhammer fantasy universe in which you play American football. So you have orcs, goblins, trolls, undead, humans, dwarves, elves playing American football in a very violent and odd way. And in this you control a team. Now this team, what team I'm going to be, is dependent on what you vote for in this video. I'm going to go through all the teams that are featured in this game. There's about 16 or so of them, so it might take a little while, but it's only fair for those of you who don't know about this game and who want to watch it and vote that I do that. If you don't know about this game and you already know about the teams, then feel free to just pick one and vote, and you don't have to watch the rest of this. The team that I'm going to be playing as, though, will be made up of LPers who I'm subscribed to. I have a list of 28 LPers who I'm subscribed to, and I will allocate one of them randomly to each of the teammates when I make my team. But I can't do that until I know which team we're going to play as. So, let's go through all the teams, shall we? We'll just do an exhibition. Well, it's just to get a list of the teams, basically. So, here they all are. So, just so you know, briefly, MA, that's movement allowance, so that's how fast they move. Strength, agility and armor value. So strength is how strong they are, so it's how good they are at hitting other players and how good they are at staying on their feet. Agility is how good they are at passing the ball, how good they are at picking up the ball, how good they are at throwing the ball and catching the ball and dodging around other players. And armor value, the higher that is, the harder the player is to hurt, sustain injury and possibly potentially be killed, because all those things can happen. As a player does stuff, he can actually accrue basically experience points and level up and gain special skills. I'm not going to go through all the skills because there are many skills, and it would be impossible and, well, our 2 hour long video. Besides, I'm not massively au fait with this game, honestly. I've played it quite a bit. I've played against all of these teams, but I haven't actually played at them, so my descriptions may not be bang on. They're just for an idea, and so there will be people watching this video who have a vastly more experience of this game than I do, and know a lot more about it. But I'm basically just giving a sum up of all the different teams for people who haven't played it before. So humans, they're basically your jack of all trades. They're not particularly good at anything, but they have no particular weaknesses either. So they can suit their playstyle compared to whoever they're playing. They also feature ogres, which are extremely strong players who are very hard to hurt. They're never really going to get the ball, but that just gives them a little bit of oomph. Anyway, so that's humans, so basically jack of all trades, basic human ones. Your dwarves, we'll just get to a bigger one. So your dwarves are they're as you might be able to tell, they block a lot. They're basically a very steadfast sort of team. They're pretty slow, but they're very hard to injure. So they basically stay there, they stand there, they suck up damage. They have these troll slayers which are very good offensively, and they will they'll wear a team down, slowly edge forwards, and finally you know, manage to find it, just break through and score a touchdown. So there you dwarves, very steadfast, defensive sort of team. Your Skaven, completely different. Your Skaven are extremely fast. Skaven are Ratmen, by the way, if you don't know. Extremely fast team, very agile. They'll play a running / passing game, so they'll try and weave in and out of other players and break through that way. They have a little bit of oomph. They have this thing called a Rat Ogre, which is a very strong unit. And Storm Vermin as well. So they have a little bit of oomph, but they're basically an extremely quick, lightly armoured race that just tries to get through. Not very strong, but very agile, very dodging, passing sort of, mostly dodging sort of race. Your Orcs, kind of similar to Dwarves in that they're not massively fast. They're a little bit faster than Dwarves. Again, they're very hard to hurt because they have high armor value. But the Dwarves, I forgot to mention, has a steamroller that can run over things. Orcs don't have that. They do have Black Orcs. They're a grind them down, stick together, edge forwards sort of race, sort of team, I should say, really. Lizard men are made up of 3 different troop types. You firstly have the Skinks, who are good at dodging. They're really quick. They're not very well armored though. Well, they're sort of average armored. I mean, 7's average. But they can actually pick up the ball. Whereas the Souris Warriors, a little bit like Orcs, as in they're very meaty. They're reasonably slow, but they're very high armor value and high strength. But because they have agility of 1, they're never gonna really pick up the ball. Same with the Kroxigor. They're only going to have 1 Kroxigor, I think, and the Kroxigor is even stronger than the Souris Warriors. So you have a lot of oomph there. You've got your 2 different troop types. I keep thinking as if it's Warhammer, you know, like players. So you've got really strong Kroxigors and Souris Warriors, supplemented by the Skinks who are to be protected by them, and then surge forwards, dodge around, score a touchdown. Goblins. Your average Goblin is average movement, very weak, little stunty dude, and goblins aren't really that good. They get hit very often and very easy to hurt. The thing is with goblins is though 2 things: they can field trolls who are extremely strong but equally extremely stupid, and they have special weapons. They have a ball and chain wielding goblin. They have a chainsaw wielding goblin. We have a goblin that can throw bombs, and they have a goblin on a pogo stick. Now all of these weapons are illegal, so the idea with the goblin team, I think, is to do as much damage as possible with your special weapons before they get sent off the pitch, and then hopefully there's not enough of the enemy left to trample over the rest of your team. That's basically, they're a fun little race, but they're not really that good. I'm going to do all the elves at once. So your wood elf, your dark elf, your elf, and your high elves are all very agile. They're very good at passing the ball, picking up the ball. They're very good at dodging and catching. So that's what they do. There's slight variances in all of them. Like the high elves are a little more, heavily armored. The wood elves are better suited to a passing game. They're less armored. They're not as strong, but they can field tree men, who are an extremely very strong player. But not exactly very mobile either. And your dark elves have cool, like they have assassins, so they can stab people in the back, and witch elves that can frenzy and do a lot of damage. That's basically your elves. Chaos are they're a hard-hitting sort of race. The Kaos Warriors are really excellent because they've got pretty good agility. They can get the ball. They're also pretty strong and very heavily armored. So and they're not too slow either. I mean, movement rate of 5 for a strong troop type is pretty good. They also have beastmen, which are a little bit faster, not quite as strong, not quite as heavily armored. They do a lot of damage. Well, they do more damage and increase the strength when they actually run and hit a player. And a Minotaur, which is basically an oversized beastman, does even more. You know, very strong, not that agile. But yeah. So, and they're a very hard-hitting, reasonably quick team to play as. Are Chaos. Your undead have quite a wide variety of troop types. The thing you got to remember about undead is that they're very, strangely enough, very difficult to kill. So because they're undead. So you knock them down, they'll get back up again. Not particularly very agile, the undead, but make up for it by having strength 5 mummies, which are very, very, very powerful. And your wights, which are pretty heavily armoured and hard to knock down. Your ghouls are the one who will get the ball, dodge round, and score a touchdown. They're quite fast. So your ghouls are the one that are going to score the touchdown, and your wights and mummies are going to hold the enemy up, basically. That's how the undead works. Halflings, basically hobbits. Halflings are rubbish. Halflings, reasonably slow, not very strong, and very, well, not very, but low armor value, so they're prone to injury, shall we say. They're good at dodging, is what halflings do, because they're small. They're very good at dodging, weaving in and out, and stuff like that. They're supplemented by treemen, who, as I said, are one of the strongest troop types you can get, which are basically immovable and almost impossible to hurt, to get rid of. But the halflings themselves, there'll be a lot of them on the pitch, and they're so weak. They're really, really weak. But you know, they're good at dodging. They're good at dodging. So what else have we got? The Norse. So these are humans. These are basically humans, but with a little more oomph. They're an offensive team that will go forward, surge forwards. They're relying on strength, being hard hitting, puncturing a pocket through the enemy lines, and then surging forward. That's the Norse. They're barbarians, and that's what they do basically. They surge forward and try and punch a hole in the enemy defense. I think I did play as Norse, so that's kind of what I did. The Amazons are humans again, all female team. Whereas the Norse use strength to punch through, the Amazons play more of akin to Elves, as in they'll try and dodge their way through. So again, they're humans. They're not particularly weak. They're not particularly strong either, but they're more of a dodgy sort of human race, and more offensive in the way of dodging, whereas Norse are offensive in the way of hitting people down. So Elves. High Elves, again a little bit more armor value for the High Elves. Chemeri are really bastards to play against. They have Tomb Guardian, again another undead race, so they're very hard to kill and remove from the field of play entirely. Tomb Guardians, very, very strong, never going to get the ball. The thing is with the Chemeri is that they all have very low agility, so they're relying on the Tomb Guardians to bash through the enemy and then surge forward and score a touchdown. So they all have very low agility, so it's quite hard for them to get the ball, but when they've got the ball it's quite hard for an enemy to get them off them, because they can sort of cocoon them with the Tomb Guardians, which are basically impossible to knock down. So that's basically they create that little cocoon. That's sort of what they do. Very, very difficult to play against. Necromantic feature a whole wide range of enemies, kind of similar to the undead. They have flesh golems, which are sort of the tanks, but they're not as strong as the Tomb Guardians. Your wights have a bit of staying power as well. It's the ghouls that will get the ball surge forward because they have dodge, and they're basically just made up with zombies, which not especially weak, but they're quite slow and not very agile. So that's your necromantic ones. Nergal is another chaos team, but Nergal is the god of disease. So Nergal get to do all sorts of nice things, like reduce players' stats by giving them disease and stuff like that. They feature a beast of Nergal, which is like a chaos spawn. It's a writhing mass of flesh and tentacles which sits in the middle of the pitch, stops people getting through it, basically. They're a little slower than Chaos, these Nergal Warriors, basically Chaos Warriors, but with reduced movement. Again, they all have reasonably high armor value, so they're hard to hurt. So they're a strong team, quite a strong, slow team that will just edge forward, edge forward, edge forward. Very hard to stop, and eventually just get through and score a touchdown. Ogres are made up of ogres and snotlings. Now your ogre is a relatively fast, very, very strong juggernaut, basically. An ogre will just go through pretty much anything. They're a very, very strong, hardy troop type. Not very agile, as you might expect, so quite hard for them to get the ball. If they would get the ball, pretty hard to get it off them. But yes, your ogres are an extremely strong, hard-hitting troop type that's very tough. In complete comparison are the snotlings, which are quite possibly the weakest thing in Blood Bowl with a strength of 1. They can dodge, but their armor value is so low and their movement value isn't very high either, that their job is basically to get the ball and keep it while the ogres protect them. That's how this team will work. The ogres will again cocoon the ball, try and edge forwards, again movement rate of 5 throughout the team, so they're not an especially strong team. But yeah, the ogres will do all the work, smashing and crashing and bashing, and then the snotlings will follow up and eventually score a touchdown. And finally we have vampires, which are made up of vampires and thralls. Thralls are basically humans. I think they have the same stats as a human, so they have no particular strengths or weaknesses. A vampire on the other hand is strong, agile, has a good armor value, so they're a brilliant Blood Bowl player basically. You know, they can dodge, they can tackle, they're hard to hit down, you know, hard to injure, so they're brilliant. Apart from the fact that vampires suffer from bloodlust, and if they fail their bloodlust test, a vampire must bite a thrall to get his feed. In doing so, the thrall can be injured. So vampires tend to when they work, they can work really well, vampire teams, but if they can also just collapse in on themselves like a house of cards if they start failing their bloodlust tests. So it really is all or nothing with a vampire team, I think. They're really just quite a risky prospect. Anyway, so I'm sorry that took a while, but there were a lot of teams to get through there, and there's the list for you to choose from. Any of them appeal to you, please just comment in the comments below. Let me know which team you want to me to play, and I will wait about a week, start recording this next weekend I think, and start playing a campaign with whichever team scores the most votes. And again, I have a list of LPs that I am subscribed to, and I will randomly select names to go with the players. So that's it. That's the setup. So please vote, and I hope that you enjoy the LP when it finally arrives a week on Saturday. So thank you very much. Toodaloo.